All right, so parabolas are the first of our three conic sections that we're going to discuss. And a parabola, I know we've studied parabolas before, but we're going to take it a little bit further. And a parabola is really a locus of points, which means it's just a collection of points that all have a similar trait. And what they are is they are all equidistant. So the distance from some center point, and I'll talk about that in a minute, to an imaginary line are all going to be equidistant. And as I draw all of those, as you can see, I've drawn several of these, all of those distances are the same, and they will make a collection or a locus of points, which will then form a parabola. So the things that you need to know, some new vocabulary. You've always known the vertex. The vertex is that center point on the highest or the lowest point on a parabola. The focus and the directrix are now new to you. So the focus is what this imaginary point is in the middle. It is always in, I think of it as being inside the parabola or inside the cup. So the focus is always on the inside, never draw it on the outside. So if I can have a parabola that goes like this. My focus is going to be on the inside of that. So that is my focus, and my directrix is going to be exactly behind it, and it is an imaginary line. So it's going to have the form y equals 2 or x equals 2. So in this case, my directrix here is going to be x equal to some negative number. You can see we're on the negative side, so x equals some negative number. And my focus is actually centered at 0, 0. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a minute. So this is the equation of a parabola that we've been using. You've seen this before. So this is a parabola that either goes up or down. If my a is positive, so if my a is positive, then my parabola is going to go up. Actually, I should do that positive here. And if my a is negative, my parabola is going to go upside down. So this is a little bit new. Now I have x by itself and my y being squared. So if my y is being squared, now my parabola is going to go to the side. So this is if a is positive. So if I have a positive a, it's going to go open to the right, to the left. And then if a is negative, it's going to go back this way. Okay? So let's we've done a little bit of this before. So we're going to find the equation of a parabola centered at the origin with the axis of symmetry equal to the x-axis. So let's just draw that first. So if I draw, my axis of symmetry is going to be my x-axis. So here's my axis of symmetry, and I told you that I want this parabola centered at the origin. So if I center it at the origin, and it contains the point negative 3, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it contains this point up here. So if that is my vertex, can you see I'm going to have to draw my parabola something like this? Okay? Because my axis of symmetry is now my x-axis. So be aware that sometimes your axis of symmetry is going to go left and right, and sometimes it's going to go up and down. Okay? So all I need to do is so now I know I'm going to be using this equation, right? Because my y's are being squared. It's always the opposite. If the parabola is going around, I think of it as going around the x-axis. If it's going around the x-axis, then your y's are being squared. If it's going around the x-axis, so if it's going up and down, then the x's are being squared. So it's kind of the opposite of what you said. Always, and don't always forget, this is probably a very natural equation for you to graph now, and you know that y equals x squared looks like that, right? Like that's a very natural thing for you. So just remember, if you've got a parabola going on its side, the y's are now going to be squared and the x is going to be by itself. Okay? So let's use this equation. So I'm going to do my x value. My x, remember this is x and this is y. So my x is negative 3. And then I have that equal to some a. So my, this is, the vertex is the origin. So my h and k are 0, 0. Remember that? That shouldn't be new to you. So I just have y squared. And now I can, and my y value is 6. So I have negative 3 equals a times 36, right? Because 6 squared is 36. So all I'm going to do is divide that. So I get a equals negative 3 over 36, which is negative 1 over 12. So the equation, so if I wanted to find the equation for this, it simply would be x equals, well, my a value I just said is negative 112, and then I have y squared. And that is the equation of a parabola centered at the origin, right? There's no change in the h and k. I found my a value using my x and my y value. Okay. So this is also a very new concept. So this a value, we're going to talk a little bit more about that a value. The a value the absolute value of the a value, we're going to use the formula, and this is something you're going to have to memorize, is 1 over 4p. And p, if we look at this picture over here, p is the distance between the vertex and the focus. Remember, this is the focus, and this is the directrix. I'm just going to call it dir. So p is the absolute value, the distance between the vertex and the focus and the vertex and the directrix. Okay? Are we good with that? And it's the formula we're going to use is 1 over 4p, and this is one of those times where you're going to have to memorize the formula, 1 over 4p. Okay, so I have two examples here. So I'm giving you an equation, y equals 4, x equals 4y squared, and I want you to find the focus and the directrix. So we need to find the equation of that directrix, remember? So this is going to be x equal to some number, and then I need to find the focus, which is a point. It's going to be an xy point. Okay? So the first thing I need to do is I notice that my equation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set 1 over 4p, because my absolute value of a, right, my absolute value of a is 1 over 4p. So this number, the absolute value of 4 is just 4. So I'm going to set that equal to 4, because this is my a value, right? Okay, and all I need to do is cross multiply and solve. So this is going to be 16p equals 1, or p equals 1 over 16. So that means that this distance from the vertex to the focus is 1 over 16, and the distance from the vertex to the directrix is 1 over 16. So if this guy is centered at the origin, this is clearly centered at the origin, my focus is going to be 1 over 16, comma, 0. That is my focus. Sometimes we just use the letter F for focus and D for directrix. So, right, because you got to use a little bit of geometry here, a little bit of logic, right? So from 0, and if I'm going a distance of 1 over 16 on the x-axis, that's going to be 1 over 16, and my y value is not changing at all. And then for my directrix, I'm going to go back. So my directrix is going to be x equals negative 1 over 16, right? It's the equation of a line, so it's x equal to, and I'm going back 1 over 16, so it's at the point negative 1/16. So for this next problem, I have given that the directrix is y equals negative 3, so that is, that's a line down here at y equals negative 3, y equals negative 3, right? And then I have this centered at the origin, so I'm going to draw, right, this is centered at the origin, so that's, and then my parabola is, so obviously the directrix is always going to kind of be behind your parabola, and the focus is always inside the cup. So can you see that this is the shape of my parabola? It's just a positive y equals x squared parabola, right? Because my directrix has to be below it, and my focus has to be on the other side of the origin, or the vertex. So it's on the other side of the origin. They're on opposite sides. And if you recall, this distance here is p, and this distance here is p. So, but I already know what my p distance is, right? My p distance, if I go from the center down to y equals negative 3, that distance is going to be 3. And this distance is going to be 3, correct? So in my formula, I have 1 over 4p equals my a value. Well, I just told you, we just discovered that my p value is 3, so this is going to be 1/12. So I know this is my normal parabola. That's how I think of it. So this is like y equals x squared, right? That's the first parabola you ever learned. So I'm just going to stick this. This is my new a value. So I'm just going to stick 1/12 in front of x squared. If the parabola had gone upside down, this would have been negative 1/12. And if it had been to the left or to the right, then I would have switched the x's and the y's, right?